Masked Hero.
Hello everybody and welcome to another video. This week we're going to be taking some shots at what I think the Fear No Evil box story is going to encompass. Now, obviously the story of these boxes, it's not like Arkham Horror where you're kind of taking on a very narrative journey. Generally in Marvel Champions, you can string along this very loose narrative. There's the comic pages between each scenario in the campaign book, but the actual story is not that key to what's going on. I wouldn't blame anybody for just not... You can play the campaign, you don't actually know the story. That said, we can see that these campaigns generally take a certain amount of inspiration from known stories. Most on the face, Civil War is literally named after Civil War, but Age of Apocalypse is also named after an arc from the 90s with the mutants, and you can sort of see echoes of several different X-Men stories in the first box where they go up to space and they fight Magneto on Asteroid M, and they kind of weave together a bunch of different things there. But what I think we're going to be looking at with Fear No Evil is I think that this is going to be taking inspiration from a 2022 story called Devil's Reign. And we will get around to the full picture of that in just a moment. And so first of all, let's take a look at the front of the box, which is basically all I have to go off of. We have the heroes, we have the box, we know that we're not doing Shadowland because that's its own scenario pack. Front of the box, we have this person. Who is that? That is Typhoid Mary. She is an assassin that has been very long associated with Kingpin. She has multiple personalities. I apologize if I don't get some of the terminology here correct, as I'm just not completely informed in all, psychological conditioning, psychoanalyzation. But she essentially has her innocent side, Mary, a aggressive side named Typhoid Mary, who kind of seemed like the polar opposite of her innocent side until we eventually meet Bloody Mary, who is like the full-on sadistic person. In her normal state, in just Mary, she generally doesn't display any abilities. They're kind of like subconsciously set aside or suppressed. But then Typhoid Mary generally shows off an ability for pyrokinesis. I don't know if she can... I think she can generate fire. I don't think she's like pyro where she can only control the fire. But generally pyrokinesis, which also turns into a little bit of telepathy and telekinesis. But then Bloody Mary is just a very violent, very sadistic personality who takes all that and just dials it up to 11. She also has other personalities. I think one of them is fully in control of her powers. She's not really like, I don't want to say deranged, but she's not as like off the deep end. In the comics, recently actually, Typhoid Mary is now the wife of Wilson Fisk, aka Kingpin, who we do see up in the corner of the art. I'm almost certain that is him. But I will say that Typhoid Mary being an assassin of Kingpin does complicate some of my plans a little bit, because when I first envisioned what a Daredevil box would be, I assumed that we would see Bullseye and we would see Elektra, and I think that we will probably see at least one of those two. I don't know if we'll see both of them. But moving into what I think this is all connected to, because I think we're going to be taking inspirations from Devil's Reign. And I say that because based on the cover image, I think we are going to be in a New York City where Wilson Fisk is the mayor. I think we are putting ourselves into that era of the status quo. I should probably say more often than not, with my comparisons to the comics, to the game, I understand these are two separate continuities. I don't expect them to be a one-to-one. I do expect there to be some inspiration that's taken because we're writing about a property that does exist and we can take inspiration from. And we can kind of tell our own stories. We're not adhering exclusively to the stories made by another property. Because we have Wilson Fisk, who seems to be in a seat of power, he seems to be, or he's running for mayor. I think we're already past that. And in this story, Daredevil is in jail, or was in jail for a good period of time, and Elektra has taken over as the mantle for Daredevil. Additionally, this is where we see Typhoid Mary and Wilson Fisk get married, but right at the end, leading to this event, this is where Kingpin discovers that he no longer remembers the identity of Daredevil. This is because the Purple Man, who I've alluded to in several other videos before, a bad man who has the ability to control people through touch and or pheromones, through an extremely powerful suggestion of your will. He can just make you do whatever he wants by telling you to do it. He has children. As a favor for saving them, I don't remember precisely. I think they were captured in some form. I don't know if they were captured by the Purple Man. I thought he was dead, and then I remembered this event, and I was like, oh, he's not dead. But either way, so as a favor to him, the children of the Purple Man essentially psychically, hypnotically, whatever you want to call it, make everyone forget the identity of Daredevil. And so when Wilson Fisk realizes that he no longer remembers, he decides to just go scorched earth, and he just outlaws any kind of vigilantism in New York City, and he employs the Thunderbolts, who are not the Thunderbolts that we necessarily see in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. box, but just the Thunderbolts is a generic term, especially by this point in Marvel 616 continuity. It's kind of just a super-powered hit team for the government in different ways, and Wilson Fisk has his own version of that within the confines of New York City. Several different people are part of it, notably Kraven the Hunter and Rhino are both displayed as being part of the Thunderbolts during this time, but essentially they just basically have martial law within the city. And how Wilson Fisk is maintaining this power is through the Purple Man. What Wilson Fisk is doing is he has taken off one of the fingers of the Purple Man and encased it into a jewel that is in his walking stick. So he can basically focus his power to keep a general psionic control over the city to help change public opinion. And I imagine it's been a while since I've read the story. I believe he has bigger aspirations for that, to maybe extend it out to the country or the state, whatever. Go full, Emperor Palpatine on the country. The Purple Man eventually gets out, and the fight really becomes the city versus the Purple Man. And how I think this will be adapted into Marvel Champions is that we will see a scenario that is Typhoid Mary. Maybe that's the first scenario. We will see, I want to say, a Bullseye scenario, because Bullseye is also relevant around this time, not necessarily during the event. And I understand that Bullseye will probably be the nemesis minion to Daredevil, but I also don't know how you get away with not doing a Bullseye scenario. I want to say there's going to be an Elektra scenario, but suddenly you have 3 scenarios that are all revolving around assassins of the Kingpin, and I actually think that either Bullseye or Elektra is going to get put to the side. I think we're going to have 2 different scenarios that involve Kingpin, or we're going to have one that involves fighting Kingpin in the middle of the box, and one that involves fighting the Purple Man at the end of the box. I don't know what the 4th scenario would be. Obviously, I've outlined how we could have Typhoid Mary, Bullseye, Elektra, Kingpin, and Purple Man. I just don't think they're going to do that. I think there's going to be Elektra or Bullseye, Typhoid Mary, Kingpin, something Purple Man, or something Kingpin 2. That is my speculation for what this is going to be. In terms of what we actually know, I imagine that Typhoid Mary is going to be a scenario where we either have 2 different versions, like a Collector, or I think it's Collector 2 now that I stop to think about it, but something like akin to Collector 2 or Spiral, or even like Apocalypse, the second Apocalypse, where you have the 3 different versions, except for probably not a foldable card like that, more of just these 3 things, like Loki, switching in and out the different personalities of Typhoid Mary. Bullseye or Elektra is going to be just something that is really pushing you. They're using their assassin skills to take you down. Wilson Fisk, 1. If there's multiple, then 1. If there's just 1, Wilson Fisk scenario, I think, is probably going to be akin to Risky Business, where you have the civilian Wilson Fisk and you have the villain Kingpin, and we will somehow see a upgrade of Risky Business in that capacity. And the Purple Man scenario, or it's going to be a Kingpin with the powers of Purple Man, but is basically going to be something that I would not be surprised that it takes the treachery from the Baron Zemo scenario that has you go look through your collection for a hero and turn them into a minion. I think we're going to turn that up to 11. The entire scenario is going to revolve around using heroes from your collection against you, because it's going to be using mind control or something akin to that, is my guess. Beyond that, I think I've only really hit up to 4 of the scenarios correctly, because I think there's going to be a mystery one that I'm just not thinking of that fits into this narrative that Fantasy Flight has been able to justify. I want to stake my claim that I think this is going to be the general shape of the box. It's not going to be Devil's Reign directly, but I think that it's going to be taking influence from that story to create the narrative that we will see. And so I look forward to when this box comes out, see how accurate I am, see how off I am, because I'm completely open to being off. But I do think that we are going to, I think the status quo of this box is going to be that Wilson Fisk is the mayor of New York City, and we will be playing off of that. And Devil's Reign is the most significant story that I believe happens while Wilson Fisk is the mayor. And so I think that's going to be what we're going to be taking influence from. Let me know in a couple months, how did I do? I'll obviously know. I'll probably touch back on this and just react to it. But either way, I want everyone to have a great day. I'll see you in the next video. And remember, you're doing great. Keep it up.